And like your family, like a Nigerian family, like were you born in Canada or were you born in Nigeria?
No, I was born in Nigeria. I came here when I was 4. So the first few years when I came here was living in Jane and Finch.
Mr. Dreammaker himself.
I shifted over to real estate, and then the rest is history.
A man managing over $100 million in assets.
It took me 20 years to get to where I am, but it doesn't have to take each of you 20 years because we've built an institution now. So instantly, we went from 10 founders a year to over 1,000 Black-led founders that have gone through our program.
We met Eldon Holder,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And he spoke proudly of being part of your team and just like being one of your right-hand guys of like, would you say that that specific group of people, if you did not have that, you would not be where you're at today?
As the building was going up, starting to see the impact it was having.
And this is like the biggest wealth transfer ever in tech.
Hello again. Hello and welcome to Hustle Over Everything podcast. This is a podcast where we receive stories, tips, and tactics from entrepreneurs who have done it. Today we have a treat.
The man who's making dreams happen.
Mr. Dreammaker himself.
Yes, sir.
A man managing over $100 million in assets. We have Isaac Olowolafe,
Big boss.
Dreammaker CEO,
Yes, sir.
partner in BKR Capital, connecting Black talent to tech, to entrepreneurship. We're going to have a good conversation today, just diving deep into his journey and just talking about entrepreneurship from a real perspective, a casual conversation and being real as men. So, Isaac, how are you, bro?
Doing good. Been a nice, another long day, nice balance between family stuff, business stuff, nonprofit stuff, real estate stuff. Just a regular day.
Yeah. I see you're rocking a fire watch there, man. What is that on the
What
wrist?
watch is that?
Yacht Master.
Yacht Master.
Yes.
I'm becoming like really
the blue
accustomed to
tone.
watches, and I'm like, when I see a nice watch, because when you walked in, I didn't even notice it till you pulled the suit sleeve back.
Yeah, the blue
and I'm like,
tone.
wow, that's actually fire.
So are you a collector yourself or?
Yeah, I like watches.
Yeah.
Watches. That's I like watches.
That says enough. Like, I'm a seasoned guy in watches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your favorite watch in your collection?
The Yacht Master, and then also the rubber band Rolex.
Rubber
Yeah,
band
the one
Rolex.
that came out about 4 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
The Prezi, also I like that one too. But the very first Rolex, yeah, that one. It was the entry level one. I remember I was like just got into real estate. That was a nice one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What's that track? Ever since I got the rollie, I ain't got the time.
Most definitely, man. So there's a few things in your story that I want to touch on that relate to me personally. One is Woodbridge,
Yes.
and 2 is UPS.
Yes.
And I'll let the audience find out what that means. In a
Let them
second.
marinate.
So for one, let's talk about Woodbridge. Because as Black men, it's overall, the exposure leads to expansion.
Yeah.
What did that mean for you when you were moved to Woodbridge as a youth?
It was night and day. Like, again, growing up in Martin Grove and Albion, and then going to Holy Cross, which was literally about 15 minutes apart on the same Martin Grove, but literally on the other side of the tracks, as they say. It was big exposure, to everything from different culture to way of life, to way of thinking, mindset. And right off the bat, it changed a lot of my perspective to shaping me where I'm at now.
Most definitely, man. Something that happened to me as well, we talked about this on the Puya episode.
Yep.
The mindset shift that comes when you change perspective, change environments. I was raised in Malvern and then went to boarding school in Oshawa, and that completely changed my perspective on life and how I move as a young man, And I can only imagine what effect moving from, I think it was Jane and Finch.
Yeah. Well, so Jane and Finch, and then Martin Grove and Albion, and then to Highway 7 in Martin Grove or Aberdeen.
And like your family, like a Nigerian family, like were you born in Canada or were you born in Nigeria?
No, I was born in Nigeria. I came here when I was 4. So the first few years when I came here was living in Jane and Finch. Went to elementary school in Jane and Finch area, and then went to St. Charles Garden for high school for elementary school as well too, and then Holy Cross in grade 9, and that was the big shift, all because of sports.
Soccer, no?
Soccer, yeah.
What position do you play?
Striker. Sweeper. I wanted to play striker, but they needed me in the back, right? So I was playing sweeper. Roberto Carlos.
You're telling me the sweeper position is like a lot of like the work rate you must have is extremely high.
For sure. Sweeper is one of the most dependent positions on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I would say next to goalie.
Correct.
It's like you're the last line of defense, and
You're
sweeper
doing a lot of quarterbacking, right?
Yeah, a lot of quarterbacking because you're like, you're the last line of defense. So you see everything going on ahead of you. So you see people be like, oh, you need to go to this side, you need to go to that side, So it kind of puts you in a line of point guard, quarterbacking.
Is that like a center back?
Nah. Yeah, well, it's center defense.
Center defense.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But then it's a different way of playing it, right? Because you could be a sweeper on the one side too, depending on how you play it.
Sometimes I'll play right D,
yeah,
and then one of my closest boy will play sweeper, and we will always be, he'll take the mid, I'll be on the right side.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anybody that was coming down the wing knew I was going after the legs, right? I was taking them out.
Yeah.
Is it like Steven Gerrard? Like, would you classify him as a sweeper?
Steven Gerrard. Actually, I kind of
like Liverpool.
I don't watch soccer.
You're not PL.
Do you watch soccer?
Not as much. I wish I did watch it, but not as much.
But that sounds like something like he would be doing. Like he's going like end to end, like everything in the back. He's playing defense. He's tackling. He's passing.
Yeah.
Captaining, calling the plays. I mean, yeah, that's when you say sweeper. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Sweeper is more like the responsibility. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can be on the left side, but hey, if this ball goes in,
correct, yeah,
it's your ass.
It's on you.
It's on you and the goalkeeper. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. So let's move on to UPS, man. I think this is an interesting story for your journey.
Yeah.
When it comes to the inception of building what you currently have now. Talk to us about the mindset you had working at UPS, and how old were you at the time?
So I would have been, because I would have just started university, so I think 20, 19, 20. 20 when I was at UPS. And really the mindset at that time was, sacrifice at all costs, and what's the one thing that I could sacrifice that wouldn't impact, the other things that were important, like doing well in school. And that was sleep, right? So, took the midnight shift because I'm like, you know what, I could try and get away with a few hours and get to school and try and make it through classes so I could do it again the next night. So it was the 12 to 4 or 5 a.m. shifts and, get back. Luckily, it was right at the border, right by York University, right at the border near Woodbridge. So it wasn't too far a drive back at 4 or 5 a.m., except when there were snowstorms. Then those were interesting drive-bys.
Holy, that's crazy, man. So you're working at UPS, you are making money. Like, what are you working towards at this time? Because you're in uni and you're like sacrifice sleep just to work a job, right? Where a lot of people, their main priority is to get good grades. What made you decide to, I'm going to work as much as I can during these crazy semester courses and everything that I got going on right now?
Well, the interesting thing was that at UPS, one of my boys told me, he's like, yo, did you hear at UPS, they give tuition reimbursement? Like, oh, that's amazing. Because, fortunately, my parents, they've already sacrificed, saved, did different scholarship programs for several years where I didn't have to actually pay tuition. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this is a great opportunity where I could be doing a job, getting paid, and then as long as I meet certain marks, I could get tuition reimbursement, put that together, and then start seeing, okay, how do I buy my first crib? How do I buy my first property? Right? So that's really what was the mindset, and really using that to start the business.
And were you like an only child? Did you have siblings?
Have siblings, first child, 2 brothers, 1 sister. 1 year younger, 5 years younger, and then 7 years younger. Yeah.
Those are the top of 4.
And the pressure must be tough because in African households, like the eldest is like you have to set the gold standard.
Correct.
Are you a doctor?
Correct.
Pardon?
Are you a doctor?
Are you a doctor?
Doctor, a lawyer, engineer.
Engineer.
Well, computer science was what, because definitely I wasn't going to do med, but med school, but computer science was what I went into university with until I realized, shoot, I got a program, right? And that wasn't something I was willing to learn, right?
What year did you realize, you know what, this ain't for me?
The first semester, I think the first two classes, I'm like, this is not like high school.
Yeah.
So right away, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out where I could shift into. And that's when I saw economics, management. I'm like, okay, this seems interesting. Macroeconomics, psychology.
I feel you. And now on the UPS thing, the reason why I brought that up wasn't just because of the job and the buyback, which I didn't know. I think that was a big jam that if it's still going on, definitely leverage that if you're a student.
Take advantage.
Yeah. You are using that money on purpose,
correct,
with intention.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, no, again, and why it's so important, because I wasn't the only one sacrificing my sleep, right? There's a large group that was working the midnight shift, but everyone had a reason why they were sacrificing sleep, right? So for me, I was sacrificing my sleep to start getting into the real estate game, to start getting into the entrepreneurship game. And it was the easiest way for me to do it, that allowed me to do whatever I need to do during the day that doesn't conflict with it. Again, and it wasn't easy, but nothing great is easy. And I think, that start, laying the foundation of, okay, how do you multitask between working at night, going to U of T, studying, starting my real estate courses, as well to become a real estate agent, and just doing all that and sort of laying down the roadmap of, okay, if I get my license, who could I start working with? Where do I start pitching? Is it at U of T? Is it at UPS? Yeah.
Amazing. And it's interesting. So you go from computer science to deciding to go into business. What influences did you have around you to push you towards that direction, to think about, I could be an entrepreneur, I can get into property management, I can get into real estate? Because there must be some influences at such a young age that spurs you in that direction.
Well, absolutely. Again, it was the environment of, being in that environment of Woodbridge, where a lot of my friends' parents, they would talk about real estate even while we were in high school. As they were finishing, they're like, you know what, we're going to get together, work in the summer and try and buy our first property. That's the conversations, they were having. And then my dad was already in real estate as a real estate broker. So getting that exposure of real estate at home, and that real estate from some of the friends that I hung out with, always just gave me that interest. And then again, studying the landscape and seeing how real estate was having an impact even in Woodbridge, right? And who was buying the real estate, the lands they were buying, custom homes that were being built, and it was just something I was intrigued on.
So how much money did you save up?
So the first property that I bought was zero down. Only had to pay closing costs.
Yeah,
so it was around zero down.
What year is this?
40-year amortization. So it was almost 20 years ago.
Jeez.
Zero down, 40-year amortization.
What a blessed time to be alive, Isaac.
I think we paid like $3,500 for closing costs. I remember it was with Scotiabank. And it was but the interest rate was about 6.9. So that's why now I don't really look at interest rate. I look at value, right? I don't really move based on the rate. I move based on the value and the location, and if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Because if I was paying 6.9%, 20 years ago when I was doing zero down, 40-year amortization, when there was cheaper rate, but that was what made sense for me to enter the market at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to do what you got to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
You got to get into the game, got to get into the system, no matter what, right? It's costly to get in when you're starting from scratch. And that could be from a rate point of view. That may be from not the most prime location, but still be able to learn the process of buying the property, dealing with tenants, and managing that whole aspect.
Have you done work on that property over the years?
Oh yeah, over years. Now we sold it because again, as we grew, we started to shift the type of real estate and assets we want to focus on. Before is whatever was the cheapest, regardless of the location. Then it shifted to got to be downtown Toronto. Then it shifted to stacked townhouses because it's too expensive to buy a regular townhouse or a single dwelling. Then it shifted to back to condos because you want to be in the city and you can't buy a stacked townhouse in the city or a townhouse because it's just way too expensive. Then it shifted to multiplex. Then shifted to development. So as things were shifting and growing, so did our appetite.
So you're speaking about we, right? So let's go from getting the first property and then to developing that vision of let's start accumulating more assets, because there's a little bit of a disconnect there from going to let's go to condos, let's go to duplex, let's go to townhouses, right? So walk us through that period of I got my first property. Now let's develop a plan to accumulate a basket of different properties across the GTA.
I think the favorable thing is that apart from my dad being in real estate, I was fortunate enough to have some close friends that also saw the vision of buying real estate. So we were able to bounce ideas together and figure out, okay, markets together, crunch numbers and figure out, okay, does it make sense to buy a Kipling and Steels? Because that's all we could buy right now. So it makes sense to buy in Nelson across a Malvern Town Center, right? Because that's what we could afford at that time. And then, downtown at Front and Spadina, fly condos at, 149,900, crunching the numbers to make it make sense at 149,900. Like crazy how we were crunching numbers to make 149,900 make sense almost 16, 17 years ago. And then when at Queen West, when they were starting at 200,000, right? So it was good to be able to bounce ideas with individuals that were close. And because of that, it really just kept on giving me the push, right? To be able to try and scale and do more. And then I always wanted more of a challenge. So before it was like, okay, let's get 1 or 2 units. Then once I got my real estate license, then it's like, okay, a lot of people were asking, oh, what did you just do? I just bought a few units, sold a few units. Oh, like, oh, I want one. Oh, my friend want one. So now it's like going to developers and saying, okay, you know what? We don't just want 3 or 4 for me and 1 or 2 friends. We want 10. Actually, no, we want 50. Actually, we want 100 units, right? And then really piece it out to those that were within our network and those that were within their network. And then before you know it, a lot of people were getting access to real estate in locations that some of them never been to, downtown the city, on King West, Queen West. And it was just through navigating the relationships and getting in front of the door and just saying we want this allocation and this and distributing it out.
So there's a lot that happens there in that process. You're working with people that are your friends during that time. What were some of the wins and losses of working with longtime friends during that process?
I think the biggest thing is that I always try to tell this with those that are around me, that is like, for me, like real estate investment, development, I always use the analogy of, you're going into battles, you're going into war, we're trying to have this goal. And because we're trying to have this goal, there's going to be some wins, some losses. But the most important thing, there's going to be struggle, but there's going to be growth. As long as the struggle and the sacrifice is in the right direction, going back to the UPS days, like I had to miss going out, at nighttime, going to the clubs and this and that, but the sacrifice of not going out to the clubs was for greater good, to be honest, right? For the sacrifice of not sleeping 8-9 hours was for the greater good. So when things become discomfort, it doesn't really, move me, right? Because I've put myself in uncomfortable situations by myself, like not being, sometimes it's hard to deal with difficulties when you're put in those situations without preparing yourself for it. And then sometimes you're on the battlefield and you're about to enter a battlefield, but you prepare to and train to be on that battlefield. So, when you see certain things that typically would make somebody else scared or somebody else freeze, for you it's like, okay, this is normal because we're trying to achieve X. And achieving X is not going to be an easy journey. So the hardest thing was making sure I had the right group around me that truly believed that, and we did and still do.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Like, I think your group of friends had a major influence on you, especially at such a young age, because you can be with your boys, you're maybe having some shots, drinking, having a good time, but it's very rare to find guys who have a common goal and a vision, and not just to say, hey, let's, it's easy for guys to be let's go invest in a property together.
Yeah.
But to see that plan through and
Yeah.
to stick at it for 10 plus years,
Yeah.
that's remarkable. Would you say that that specific group of people, if you did not have that, you would not be where you're at today?
I think definitely like environment overall, whether it's from, you know, my parents moving me to Woodbridge, you know, meeting my girlfriend, now wife at the time that I met, you know, my good friend from elementary school, reconnecting with him when I was coming out of UPS, and then him also saying, yo, let's get into real estate. And then other individuals that came in and say, oh, I saw what you're doing. And so I think, you know, it was so organic how things were falling into places that it happened so fast because, you know, I was only focused on selling real estate for maybe about 6-7 years before I jumped into development. So I didn't really celebrate too many of the sales win, right? Because I was already on to okay, I need to put up a condo.
Mm-hmm.
I need to start putting up some real estate. I need to be part of the supply chain because I'm like, I've seen enough in a 6-7 year period. You know, we probably touched, you know, probably close to 50 development sites that we were selling anywhere from 5-6 units to 100 units. So I'm like, you know what? I think we figured out this model of pre-construction, buying and holding, packaging and selling, negotiating price points, 5% down, 5% commission, assignments, you know, stacks, condos. I think let's challenge. I want to challenge myself, and that's when, you know, Yorkdale came about.
Yorkdale.
What
happened in Yorkdale?
Built a condo across of Yorkdale. You know, that's it. It's funny, again, full circle, you know, in terms of, you know, hanging out in Yorkdale when I was, you know, in my teens and in my early 20s to, you know, organically being placed to buy the land across of the mall, you know, around 28 years old, and then getting into a space that, again, no roadmap,
Mm-hmm.
no mentors, right? And just being like, you know what, it's either gonna work or you're gonna get crushed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the amount of people that said you're gonna get crushed, as I was asking them, you know, do you want to be part of this and this and that, and the amount of people that, you know, a few people that came and said this looks good until the first concrete dust that was breathed in, or until the first brick that was thrown at you. That is like, it's not like HGTV
Mm-hmm.
anymore. This is some real.
This is real life. This ain't Sims.
It all looks good on the drawings, right? It all looks nice. It all looks nice and easy, right? Until you start excavating and realize there's bad soil, right?
Yeah.
Or until you're doing short casing and then, you know, the wire breaks, or you know, you're doing concrete work and then there's a strike, right? All these different, or, you know, or it's, you hate the winter, but you're standing outside making sure work's being done, right? So these are things that, you know, you just got used to being uncomfortable as you're getting to a goal that you want to reach.
Did you ever deal with any doubts during that process of bringing that condo from nothing into something?
No, you can't deal with any doubts. Like if you have 1 ounce of doubt when you're trying to do something of that scale, everything could crumble. Like, and especially when you know what you're doing is not going to be easy. So you just can't have any doubt. Like the thought of negativity or this can't work, it can't even cross your mind. I don't like being near negative people. I don't like talking about negativity. I just need to stay positive because I'm already in spaces where it's difficult and hard. So why create more?
I create more stress.
Stress, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when you choose to be in this, right? So yeah, doubt is not something.
Even like when the people were like, "Yeah, Isaac, I don't know if this is possible."
It's
man."
motivation. I love that. Right?
Eh?
I remember sitting in Tim Hortons and people were like, yeah. And I'll just go there with a t-shirt and this and that. I'm like, yeah, honestly, like we're about to put up this condo, and they're like, but where's your sales center? You gotta have a sales center. Are you sure you're the developer? Like, are you trying are you trying to scam me?
scam
Like,
me?
what's going on? Like, you're like, how old are you? Like, and the crazy thing is, it'll be like 8 o'clock. I'm here trying to like actually help out. I like get in my car. I'm like, you know what? It is what it is, man. Like, all you could do is, help where people want to help, and if not, just keep on moving. But no one could say that I didn't help when I had the opportunity to.
Yeah. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the show. We have some amazing merch live on our website right now. My personal favorite is the definition tee. You can go find it in the link below. And if you don't like that, you can explore some other products on our website.
If you were to estimate how many no's it took you to get over building the condo near Yorkdale, how much would you say?
How many no's and battles? Hundreds.
Really?
Right? From tying up the property to trying to close, to figuring out whether I'm going to be just a developer and bring on a builder, to realizing, no, I got to be the developer and the builder.
What is the complexity with that? Like, that sounds like like a big ass hurdle, and I don't even understand. So yeah, break that down.
Well, so no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. So in Ontario, when you're the developer, you get your Ontario vendor license,
Okay.
and that gives you the ability to sell real estate.
Okay.
And then you're supposed to bring on a builder who will have their own builder Ontario, which gives warranty on the construction of the property they're going to build. After getting hundreds of no's from lenders, finally got the one yes. After getting a lot of, what's a way to put it? A lot of roundabouts and yes, we'll build for you. And no, we can't really tell you what the cost we're going to build at, and confirm the scheduling and confirm this. And a lot of gray area made me start feeling like, I don't know if I really want to go down this path without having that level of control. Right. So that's when, again, I had to pivot, halfway through and say, you know what, we got to be the developer and the builders. We'll bring on a construction management company that has the expertise in managing a construction alongside with us, but we're the builders on the job. So it went from, okay, let me be the developer. Let me do the sales through the brokerage. Let me do the marketing, the sales and marketing, and then work with a builder to let me be the developer, let me do the marketing and sales, to let me be the builder, and then bring in a management company. So we had to pivot right out the bat. I was talking with my dad. I'm like, we just have to do it. If we're gonna do this, we gotta do it all in. And I was fortunate again, was able to connect with a few individuals outside the community, allies that really saw the work that we were doing, and that's what's been great in this journey, connecting with individuals where they saw themselves in me when they started 30 years ago, 40 years ago, where it wasn't nothing, where they had to start from scratch, where they didn't have access to capital, where they didn't have a real network, and they made it happen. And that's what they saw me doing, because I'll go there with a package and I say, look, I'm going to save money. We're not going to have a sales center. Let's go to Joey's. And we're going to sell all these units at Joey's. Right, they'll see me at the networking events. I got a picture with me and my daughter, because at that time she would have been like 4 or 5 years, and we'll be at a sort of as a trade show, and she's there, with her golf shirt, and I'm in a golf shirt, and we got the banner that says "Dream Residence at Yorkdale." Right, and everyone's like, I don't know, we just keep seeing this sign, "Dream Residence at Yorkdale" on this land. When are you actually going to break ground? Right, so there's a whole process of education, right? Educating while I'm learning, right? Like, so it's like, getting your PhD while you're teaching a course in PhD.
Yeah, it's like you're learning and building as you go.
Yeah.
Like, most definitely.
And how much of that was just boost the ground, keep going, knocking doors, asking questions, to actual intrinsic knowledge of, this is how you set up a property, this is how you
so it was a combination of both. It was, again, like when I was selling for other developers, I was always asking a lot of questions. I was always watching. I was looking at their floor plans. I was looking at the models. Sometimes some developers before they launch, they'll give me the drawings and they'll be like, Isaac, we haven't finalized the floor plate yet, but here's the high level drawings, here's the architecture drawings. We still need to do the engineering drawings, and all that kind of electrical drawings, etc. But, play around and see which floors you want, which units you want, and what type of bedrooms, combinations you want. So I'll look at the floor plans. I'll shape it out. So, okay, I want a 1+ den. The den would be an 8x8. Could put a sliding door after. I want a 2+ den, or I want a junior 1-bedroom that could convert into a 1-bedroom. So I was already playing around with floor plates. So when Yorkdale was going on, same thing. We worked with the architect and said, okay, let's design it. Let's design it this way, and let's try and get the best engineer. Let's try and get the best architect, and really just put together a team, and make sure that you're up very early, because construction starts very early in the day.
So more sleepless nights.
Exactly, which I was already used to, right? So
You're built for
preparation
this from
preparation,
day one.
exactly.
I guess we got to give thanks to UPS.
I still have a small little UPS truck on my desk. Right?
Really?
Yeah, well, yeah. It was one of those pieces within the journey that played a part.
Yeah. I was actually, when I said earlier, yo, how you doing? Right. And I was like, man, I've been just chopping wood and carrying water. And I was reading this book yesterday called Chop Wood, Carry Water. And essentially it's talking about people want the success of, let's say the dream residence at Yorkdale, right? They want that building. But if people were to see that right now, they would not see those hours you spent at UPS saving money for your first property. And people are like, yo, Isaac, come party. Let's go do this. You're young, you're whatever, right? But Chop Wood, Carry Water essentially is that this guy wanted to be a samurai, and he went to Japan to learn how to be a samurai. And in his first 2 years, his sensei made him chop wood and carry water. He's like, hey, I didn't come here just to chop wood and carry water. I came here to shoot bows and arrows to do this. Correct. He's like, well, it's going to take you 10 years, but he doesn't know like that tedious process, that those things you got to do when you don't want to. Just carry water the same way, chop wood, grows those muscles so you can actually have that persistence and tenacity when the tough projects come about. So it's that whole idea of appreciating the journey and appreciating
the journey was
things in the present.
Oh yeah,
because they pay off later.
Important. No, they'll pay off, and like even like throughout the whole Yorkdale period, I remember it was easy to go into the city, and sometimes I wanted to meet the engineering department or get the sign off from the city, and they may be in a meeting and just sit in the North York City Center and just waiting for them to come down and just working away, and then they come down, get documents signed, and then bring it to the land registry or bring it to the lawyers or bring it to the consultant, and just being hands-on and just getting that whole understanding of the process. And it was just, I just loved it. I'm like, I want to do another one. And and as the building was going up, starting to see the impact it was having, right? The impact it was having with those that said, oh, wow, I could be in real estate. I could build. I could renovate. I could do this, right? Because it was in a location that, if you're going down 401, you saw the crane and it said dream on it. If you're going into Yorkdale and you're going through the ramp, you see the building, you see the hoarding, right? If you're at the mall and you're at Joey's and you look across the street, you see the building erected, right? So it really gave a lot of exposure and gave a sort of a impact and a spotlight especially to a group that typically didn't, have that type of spotlight. Like there was people that, that reached out, came because we had the trailer there, came onto the site when we'll have different sessions at that time, and they'll be walking on construction sites, and then they'll be, just some of them will be like, they'll be bringing their kids just to get that experience, right? And seeing that, this is a project being done by someone that you could relate with, someone that you could, that may, has a last name that is African, that like it had that, ripple effect that, typically wouldn't.
Do you feel like with that specific time you had that impact, that now you feel like I have to carry this weight of, wow, I'm a trailblazer in the city. I have to continue pushing forward for this thing. Did you realize it at that time?
Well, I think through faith and God, everything always happens for a reason. And I think all the different positions that I've been placed in and opportunities that I've been given that has a ripple effect beyond just myself, I don't think is by accident. And when you look at some of the other stuff that we've been able to do after the fact, the stuff that we've been doing with the universities, the hospitals, and then now on the tech and venture side, I think everything happens for a reason, and as much is given, as you said, much is expected, right? And really, it's been rewarding to see, again, most importantly, the impact. To see that I was brought into an environment, and through that environment, it gave me the ability to think beyond what typically would have been thinking about, and then I created an environment that everyone was able to point at and feel like they were part of that environment and allow them to dream. Mm-hmm. Right? So I went from Martin Grove and Albion to Woodbridge, moved into an environment, living with my parents, an environment that gave me the ability to dream big. I then created environments that by people seeing those environments that we were creating, regardless of them being in it directly or indirectly, gave them the ability to dream big. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's the impact that we've been doing.
Most definitely. And I love the thought of, impacting people to dream big, but I want to keep it a buck with me. When your Duck went up, and you had the ability to be like, yeah, I made that. What was the time you flexed on somebody and it's like, yeah, you see that right there?
That's me.
That's me, man.
Like, that's me.
Well, what's the funny thing is that, like, as a father with 3 daughters, I don't really flex, but a lot of people around me use that to flex, right? So sometimes I'll be in just at events and this and that, and I'll hear people flexing that they're part of Dream. The team, right? Yeah. They're part of Dream, part of the building, this and that. I'm like, oh, that's good. If someone's gonna enjoy the flex, at least is someone that's within the team. But it's we allow our product to do the flexing, so that's why I like to talk less, unless I'm invited to speak at stuff, and just let the work.
Even we met Eldon Holder,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And he spoke proudly of being part of your team, and just like being one of your right hand guys, or like the hotel you built by Pearson too, like the first hotel like owned by a Black person in the city. I don't even know, maybe in Ontario too.
Maybe in the country.
Maybe in the country. We never know. Like the first Black-owned hotel. Like
hotel builders aren't really that public, To be like,
hey, there's secrets. It's me.
Yeah. It's me.
There might be some, but we don't know them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Correct.
So walk us through that process, building a whole hotel. I can only imagine that it could be challenging. Oh, at this point, was it this muscle memory?
So I think, again, like I think everything we do is challenging because we're trying to have impact and we're trying to do something great, right? So the aspect of it being challenging, that's a given. But I think it's just, again, learning another thing, learning something new, right? And why was that? Because we were doing condos, doing Airbnb, the whole wave of everyone getting to short-term rental, Airbnb, and we're like, you know what? Let's do the opposite of what everyone's trying to do. Everyone's running to Airbnb. I'm not ready to do a 300-room hotel, but let me do something that's boutique and manageable. And that's when we launched a boutique hotel, 82-room hotel, and we leveraged technology to streamline the operations of it. But again, the challenge was taking an old industrial building and walking into the building and sort of imagining that if we fully gutted it out, an open staircase could be here, a boardroom could be there, which has nano walls that will open out and fit an event space of 80 people. And we'll cut it right here, where behind it we'll have offices that could also, rooms that could also be co-working space because it's by the airport. Right. And let's put the kitchen over there because there's a door. So when there's drive-through, people they don't have to come inside, and then walk upstairs and know that let's keep the stairs in the middle. and rooms just going all around so that we don't have to change the configuration of the rooms because there's windows going all around. So every room will have a window. And let's do a 4-plate that fits perfectly for, a studio room. And then let's connect 5 of them in case there's a larger group, right? So I think that was the difficulty of just because we gutted it out right to the bare bones, and then went to the city while gutting it out without any confirmation that it could be a hotel, praying and hoping that they turn it into a hotel.
The zoning fits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, so you just had like a prayer.
Yeah. So we had an idea that it was zoned for night accommodation, but again, there's still specification, bylaws, specs that you need to confine with to make sure it works, right? Number of rooms compared to the parking spot, the height of the rooms, the capacity, right? So all these different, the servicing, because this went from a building that only had about 5 washrooms to now 23, 24 washrooms. So the servicing that we had to connect with the city. So it was a great project, and allowed us to get our feet wet with one hotel. And now it's giving me the hotel bug where, hopefully in the next, 6 to 12 months, we'll be announcing 1 or 2 more hotels.
This podcast is brought to you by Nyorai Cellars. If you didn't know, Nyorai Cellars is the only Black-owned wine company in Canada. Right now, I'm holding the Rosé, the 2021 Rosé bottle. This drink is amazing. I mean, it's perfect for those dishes such as seafood where you're cooking shrimp, you're having some pasta, whatever it is you're having. Grab a bottle of Nyorai Cellars, the Rosé. If you're having a date night with your significant other, you know what to grab. Grab the Nyorai. Whatever it is, grab the Nyorai. I mean, you will not go wrong with this wine. It's perfect for everybody. If you've never drank wine, this is a great bottle for you. Or even if you're a wine expert, you're an aficionado and you drink everything. I mean, you cannot go in Nyorai. I'm telling you, this wine is really, really good. And even though I'm boosting it this hard, is because I really love drinking it. And I'm someone who loves to drink wine. So whatever it is, whatever the special occasion, check out Nyorai. They have Sauvignon Blancs, they have Rieslings. I'm holding the Rosé right now. They have a wide variety of different collections of different wines you can choose from. Make sure to check them out. The link is going to be in the description. Check them out, order a crate for yourself, or you can send a gift to someone that you want to gift some wine to. You can't go wrong with that. So Nyorai Cellars, check them out. Link will be in the description. And now back to the show.
Solid. For boutique hotels, what's the business model behind that? Is it more of like a volume game or more of like a unique markup on an individual basis? What are some of the business models behind that?
Yeah, so for we call it multi-unit, multiplex building that has a hotel, which is one revenue stream, co-working space, event space, kitchen, which we use as a ghost kitchen. So that's a different revenue. We have a business model where you could just book the whole building and have it to yourself. So and then obviously we do a lot of community events there as well too, right? So there's probably like 10 different things we're doing with this building, and we just got approved about a few months ago to do another 2 more floors on the building. So go from about 14,000 square feet to about 28,000 square feet freestanding building right by the airport. So we're excited about what we're going to do with the other 2 floors, because within that building we do training for youth. Like I said, we do events, we've done weddings. Somebody's had bachelor parties. During Halloween, someone took the whole building and had a very interesting party there.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. That's all I'll say.
That's all you say. Very interesting.
Very interesting party, right?
Oh,
But everyone had a blast.
All right.
Everyone had a blast. So it's a pretty unique building, right? It's and the whole concept was, we haven't fully flushed out the concept in terms of bringing the Drake Hotel type vibe to the airport, right? Or the Gladstone vibe to the airport. Something that's boutique, has rooms, has event space, has co-working space, and eventually, turn it into sort of a membership, right? So now we're launching sort of Dream Hub. So anybody that's part of any of our programs that our foundation does automatically become members of Dream Hub, which gives them perks, right? So once you go through our training program or our entrepreneurship program or our skill traits program, you automatically become a member of Dream Hub, which gives you discounts on hotel rooms, discount on event space. Let's say you're an entrepreneur and you want to do a sort of client appreciation or a holiday party. Now, because you're a member, this facility, you could do it there. You want to utilize an office for you or your staff, you have access to co-working space, right? So now we're flushing that out. We have a couple thousand individuals and entrepreneurs that are going through our program right now, and a large percentage will transition into Dream Hub, and then we'll fully launch out for more members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, speaking about entrepreneurs, you've been heavy into the entrepreneurship space in the city, starting with, Biff at the DMZ. Walk us through how you integrated yourself in like the tech ecosystem in Toronto.
Again, it was, when you're always open for new things and always open to go outside your comfort zone, opportunities always present themselves. So, we gave our first gift to U of T for African Studies because building institutional relationship was key in the bigger goal of what we're trying to do and a bigger plan of what we're trying to do. And then the opportunity came to do the same thing at Ryerson, now TMU. So the Sheldon and Tracy Learning Center, which is the Student Learning Center right at Yonge and Dundas, there was an opportunity to name the third room, the Isaac Olowolafe Digital Media Lab, which again started to get us into that digital media space. So this would have been about give or take maybe 7-8 years ago. So again, put in perspective that condos coming up at Yorkdale, our first building. By that time, we've already secured a site in Pickering where we're doing 23 townhouses. And by that time, second child's coming. And then, a lot of nonprofit stuff, speaking stuff, and then this opportunity with Ryerson, TMU. And it was like, okay, this better make sense and impact, unless I'm not going to waste my time, because we're trying to put up a building. We're about to start 23 towns, to have a second child. There's a lot of things that's already taken my time, right? But I was very intrigued and impressed with what I saw at Ryerson, especially when they gave me a tour and they started talking about what they're trying to do from the tech side. Because at that time, they were about 2 to 3 years into the DMZ, which has grown to be sort of the number one tech incubator in Canada out of a university. And I think 1 year they won in any university globally, right? So through the leadership of the former president, Sheldon Levy, and seeing what he was doing at the university, I'm like, you know what? Let's do this play, but it has to have a ripple effect. So let's do this. Let's plant the seed of tech, right? So I planted that seed. And then just one day I was passing by the room, and after I looked into the room beside it, and I saw like a tech Dragon's Den type style event happening, pitch happening. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I just walked in. So I'm just listening, hearing these young entrepreneurs talking about their companies and pitching. And why it was just so intriguing is because, my company, when I started, I was at university at U of T, and obviously pushing entrepreneurship at U of T at that time wasn't really the reason why you went to U of T. Wasn't to push entrepreneurship. Now that's changed. Now they have different streams. So seeing that, I was very intrigued by it, and that's when I got interested. Started talking to some of the founders, and then boom, Dreammaker Ventures was launched, and then the rest is history.
So, is this when you started getting wind of Hopper, or was it more down the line that you got wind of Hopper and Second Closet?
So that was all around the same time. I think by that time, Yorkdale was just about to finish.
Jeez,
Pickering
what
was
wins?
going. I found the industrial building. I'm like, Airbnb. Let's do our own boutique hotel, and then tech opportunities started to come because I was just in that space, right, building different relationships, and then that's when some of these tech companies came in, and then I remember going to a bunch of different tech events, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like, there's not a lot of people from the community at these events. I'm like, it's just odd. Again,
And this is like the biggest wealth transfer ever
I
in tech.
I know. I was like, and me being like in real estate and construction, I didn't really take notice of the lack of diversity in a whole other industry like tech, right? Because I wasn't in that industry, but because of the DMZ and being on the board of DMZ, and then launching the venture and doing some investment, got invited to a bunch of events, and that's when I'm like, this is crazy, but it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So in between all the other stuff, I'm like, you know what, let me talk with the university and see if they'll be interested in this sort of idea of leveraging the current infrastructure they have within the DMZ, but creating something just for Black tech founders. And that's when the Black Innovation Fellowship was launched, which is now morphed into the Black Innovation Program, which is probably the largest Black tech incubator in Canada. Well, it was the first out of the university, but probably the largest in Canada. And it just continues to grow, and probably one of the seeds that planted to launch what the federal government and other initiatives that's come after it.
Like
when you look at all
Shopify
the,
and all the
well, Shopify, BMO, and Canadian Women's Foundation were part of the team in terms of the launch of it, because we wanted to make sure that it can't just be us launching it. Let's bring on some names that will give it even more exposure,
Gravity.
and more gravity, more impact, more expertise, because I'm not the tech guy, right? So that's when we brought Shopify, and then we wanted to make sure that it's gender as well, equal. So that's when we brought the Canadian Women's Foundation, and make sure any founders that come, at least 50% are female founders as well too. And then bring an institutional partner with BMO, and then boom, with Dreammaker Ventures, and then Black Innovation Fellowship was launched. And it was launched with the idea of impacting 10 founders a year. Because of COVID and doing online programming, and then expanding to Launchpad, boot camp, and then the accelerator program, we probably touched over 1,000 now. Black entrepreneurs,
yeah.
right, in a span of 4 years.
Yeah, we participated in that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the program, we know it's a ramp program, right? Where you start and you scale up throughout the program. What happens when, I guess, you're looking for investments usually? Is it a process of, pitching someone like you, and then you're like, yes, I want to invest, no, I want to invest? Or is it more so that it's preparing them for pitching other investors and going through that process? Like, how does that work? Could you explain that?
It's a combination of both. So like, there was the Launchpad, which is really just getting the exposure to tech as an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur in tech. And then there was the incubator, where you've already launched your business, and then you want to get incubated so that you're able to rub shoulders with other entrepreneurs, see lessons learned, talk about stories. What are you doing? How could you help me? Different experts come into the space, and you're able to learn, collaborate, ask questions, get ideas. So that's the incubator. And then there's the accelerator for those that are sort of ready to start raising capital. So when the fellowship was started, we're like, okay, this is great. We've now created an environment and an infrastructure for Black founders like never before, but there's still something missing, which is access to capital, right? So that's when in 2020, the opportunity came to launch the first institutionally backed venture fund called BKR Capital, which worked out very well because of the pipeline that we're getting from not only the Black Innovation Program, but also the reach that we have nationally with other community organizations, community partners, and just businesses in general that are now raising their hands because they see there's a fund that is being managed and run and founded by an entrepreneur that looks like them. Right. So, the whole thinking of, okay, is there enough founders out there that are venture ready? We've seen over 900 plus founders that applied, right? And our fund is $20 million fund, so we could only invest in 18, but it just shows the demand because of the deal flow that's coming through.
And are these founders only restricted towards the GTA, Ontario, or is it open to the Americans as well?
Yeah, so within our thesis, we have a 10% allocation outside Canada. So we've already invested in a company that's digitizing the logistics space in West Africa.
Wow.
So they're in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and Uganda. They're called Trips, and now they're trying to be the the Toro of Africa. So they just launched a digital sharing car platform for those that have cars that want to be put on a platform to get used and utilized. So they're doing very well. We invested in them 2 years ago. We did follow-on investment with them. So that's the first company we've done sort of outside Canada. We've another company called Alterno. They're based in LA. They created a CRM system for the art gallery space, which is a multi-billion-dollar space. Because of the art space, the value of art has continued to grow drastically, and they've created a CRM system to make it easy for art galleries to manage their art, sell their art, distribute their arts. And most recently, we invested in a company called Protexa in the cybersecurity space. That's another exciting one because with leading the round for that. The founder, Claudette, ended up raising over $4 million and probably now has raised the most from a Black female founder in Canada and in a space that is growing like cybersecurity, very important. So we're excited about that company. There's a lot of great companies excited about MIQ, which is now called Woven, right? Or Wovio, sorry. They were based out of out east in Nova Scotia. We got introduced to them by one of our community partners, did an investment with them, gave them exposure to a Toronto VC, and then Toronto VC did a follow-on investment at a higher valuation. So that's the impact, again, of what we're doing. It's not just providing institutional capital in a space that didn't have it, but we're also providing exposure to founders into a space that lacks the exposure.
What's been your biggest win in the investment space?
Probably be Hopper when they go public. But
you're just seeing the dollar signs, eh? Like
but I think again, there's biggest win and biggest impact. It's
big difference.
I still think Yorkdale is the biggest impact / win thus far. But there's been many others, right? In terms of, but I just, that being the first, and that being a massive leap. Like it's not a massive leap for me to jump into the venture space. It's more so about having exposure and access, right? Which, with dedication and sacrifice, you get that. But to put up a building at the location we did took a little bit more than just getting access, getting exposure, because it wasn't just a 3-month project, a 1-year project. It wasn't just the construction period. It's the planning period. It's probably the 20 moving parts, the hundreds of employees directly or indirectly, all the different companies that are part of the project. 3 winters, 2 strikes, right? A tight corner, not even an acre, right? And to fit a condo right at the edge of the ramp, and then townhouses at the back. At the time where I got more no's then than I do now. Still get no's, but a lot more no's then. So the battle to overcome was much bigger, right? So that's one that I always
That's a champion.
Yeah, it's easy to speak about because it's so visible. But then when you go to areas like Kleinberg, you see custom homes that were building 10,000 square feet homes in locations that you typically, again, wouldn't be seeing someone building from our community there. So that's been very rewarding as well too. Or going to, a university and seeing our name on the wall and seeing a program that's been created. Or now the research and resource center that we're doing with the Knowledge Hub with Carleton and multiple universities across Canada to shape policies around Black entrepreneurship across Canada, right? So there's a lot of different plays that we're doing that are coming with wins and coming with impact. Or the homeownership bridge program that we launched in partnership with Black North and with Habitat, first ever of its kind, and CMHC, to provide housing for 200 Black families in Canada, right? So it's we don't do anything that doesn't have an impact.
Yeah. It sounds like the Yorkdale building gave you this crazy confidence moving forward, because you 3 years, boost the ground, lots of no's, managing a lot of people, and to see it come to fruition, I can imagine the confidence you have walking. Like, if I did that, I can do anything. You know what I'm saying, Isaac? Like, that is huge.
No, I think honestly, the confidence is the faith, right? Like the faith that if you believe in something that you can't see or touch, but you have faith in God, that if that idea is in your mind, in your heart, it's possible, right? So
it's done already.
It's done already. So now it's just a timing thing. Are you gonna give up? Are you gonna have doubt when it's not done as fast as you want it to be done? Like, I was pretty excited to launch my first hotel, and then COVID hit. Right? Like literally, we had a great event December of 2019. We brought in DJ Envy from the Breakfast Club, came down to the city. Cardi was there. And we did a nice talk on real estate, on business in the city, which you see a lot of that happening now in terms of conversations around real estate and entrepreneurship with sports and entertainment. We did that in 2019. And that was going to be a continuing, something that we'll continue doing. And then COVID hit. But then you got to understand when to pivot, how to manage situations. And it only made us stronger, because coming out of COVID, we're like, okay, boom, 18-room hotel, still got it. Still understand. Now let's re-kick it, boom, relaunch it. How can we get a bigger hotel? Not, oh man, we got punched so many times during COVID. We're out of this. Right? Because we knew it wasn't going to be easy, right? Because we're not trying to build it 2, 3, 4 hours away from the city too, right? We actually want to build it in one of the biggest and most expensive city in North America, right? And so if we could do it in Toronto, we go to any city and do it. So that's why for me it's been important to develop and build in the city, which has the large population of our community, and which is one of the top cities. It's very important to do it in front of an airport, which is one of the largest airports in North America.
In the world, too.
In the world, international airport. Across of Yorkdale Mall, one of the largest luxury malls in North America, and one of the largest in Canada, or the largest in Canada. And yeah, so like for us, like, and that's all in the city. And, TMU, right, is in the city, right? So it's right at Yonge and Dundas, right? Our room is actually a nice corner room there, right? Because again, which great exposure, right? So that's generational impact.
Most definitely. Speaking of the city, what's your opinion on, the separation between Brampton and Saga? That's like very polarizing right now.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see who is going to position themselves, which community is going to position themselves, which businesses are going to position themselves to benefit from the opportunities that comes from the autonomy of one city and the other. Like, there's so much happening in Mississauga, and there's a lot happening in Brampton, right? In terms of investments that's happening in Brampton, you know, both mayors, both on the Mississauga side and on the Brampton side, they're champion their city. You know, Patrick Brown, Mayor Brown, he's pushing a lot around international foreign investors coming in. You know, has actively gone to Africa, you know, to Nigeria, you know, but they're bringing in different businesses. You know, TMU moved there.
TMU moved to Brampton?
Yeah, not moved, but they set up a location in Brampton,
like,
another location in Brampton. The med school is going to Brampton for TMU. They've launched a cybersecurity space in Brampton. So there's a lot of, and then there's a lot of land, which is going to equal a lot of developments, right? But then in Mississauga, same thing on the lakeshore side, massive redevelopments happening there. We have a site in Mississauga in Mineola, 18 luxury townhouses. So we're excited about launching that hopefully in the fall of this year and starting construction in the spring of next year. So no, it's going to be a lot of great. We're looking at some stuff in Brampton right now, even in Caledon. So it would be interesting to see how things plays out once that happens.
You're a dream maker and a deal maker. Has there been a deal that you've passed on that ended up doing so well that you felt that, damn, like, how did I not see that at the time?
No, I think because I see deals and opportunities, like literally there's a deal that comes what's this analogy? Like a bus deal comes every second, like a bus.
Like a TTC.
Yeah.
Miss one bus.
Yeah, another's coming. Yeah. So like there's actually a science to saying no to deals and opportunity, and doubling down with plays, because we have a lot of plays, but the infrastructure that we're building and the institution that we're building, we're spending a lot of time in building that infrastructure, because once it's built, then it's easy to plug and play, right? Like once the university is built, it's easy to have thousands of students getting degrees every year, right? So that's why we're trying to build an infrastructure where it's then easy to just get thousands of people coming in and out of it. You know, 1,000 people becoming members, 1,000 people covering Dream Hub, connected to Dream Insurance, right? Then which percent of them are in the venture are launching a tech company? You know, which one of them wants to become into the skill trades? You know, now we're creating capacity for when we want to go out and do big construction jobs, right? So, and then which one are going to be, you know, ready to export their work, their services across the globe, right? So it's I can't remember the question you even asked, but
have you ever felt like you lied, like the deal you
passed up
on
because there's so many deals we're turning down deals, we're putting away, like because like it's we've taken the risk to be first in a lot of interesting spaces and industries, that we have exposure to so many deals and so many opportunities, that the issue is not about missing out on a deal. The issue is really about making sure that we're focused on the deals that we do have and make sure they're executed at a top standard, right? Because we're not doing plays that aren't noticeable. We're not doing plays where you may not see it. We're doing plays right in the open. We're working with partners right in the open. So when we slip, it's right in the open.
Yeah.
When we win, it's right in the open. But we chose that way, right? And and as a result of that, we know that there's benefits and there's also negative by being so exposed, right? Because you can't make a mistake. You gotta you gotta always be on your A game. when we're building homes in a top subdivision like Woodbridge and Kleinburg and King City, you can't slip. When you're putting up condos and hotels in areas like the airport, you can't slip. When you're doing institutional relationships with universities that thousands of people go to, you can't slip, right? Could take it. We didn't take the easy route of just doing something in the corner because, again, we wanted to have impact and show the world that we could do even bigger stuff. Like, we haven't even scratched the surface. Like, to us, we're just, just getting ready so that we're given bigger opportunities. So that's why we're showing what we could do in real estate. We're showing what we could do with managing a venture fund. We're showing what we could do with building a hotel all in the last 10 years.
And you're pretty young, so there's a lot of upside left,
Yeah.
God willing, yes.
And good health, good, everything in your favor.
Yes. So as we was wrapping up, man, one thing you said earlier that I want to touch on is you gave a shout out to your wife, your girlfriend at the time, now wife. What impact has she had throughout this journey on keeping you sane? And I should let you speak on that. What impact has she had on you?
Yeah, no, it's really just the focus and having my back. And now she manages and runs the hotel. Oh. She helps and runs the foundation and helping to build even structure because, for me, 21, 22, got into real estate, 24, 25, launched a brokerage, 28, launched a development company, 29, the building's going up. I then saw the Ryerson play, then saw the Pickering play, then launched Dreammaker Ventures. Then 31, 32, launched a hotel, right? And then by that time, had 3 kids, right? You can't do all that if you don't have a solid partner, right? That's able to not. And then the great thing about it is that my daughters, they're smart girls, doing well in school, sports, big dreamers as well too, and hardworking and seeing the value of putting in work, and trying to be excellent in everything, but understanding that, you can't be perfect, right? But you could always strive for perfection, right? And with that takes dedication and sacrifice, right? And, and that's really my wife, instilling that in them. And again, there's a lot of structure that she brought when the hotel was ready to relaunch, right? So that I could focus on the custom homes we pivoted and started to do because custom homes became so popular. And we went from just testing out one to now having 10 on the go, right? So while we're doing that, the hotel, had to be managed well, or the foundation where there was only there for us to do gifts and donation to universities to being funded to run programs where we have to run programs for over 1,500 entrepreneurs and youth overnight, right? Go from 1 or 2 staff to 15 staffs, right? And growing, right? So it's and that's what she's been helping to manage and lead, to be honest.
Wow,
that's insane. When it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
I think that we open up doors in spaces where we weren't in, and we left the door open once we walked in, and we then broke down the door just in case it'd be closed. And then we went and opened up more doors once it got full.
And then you built your own doors too.
Yeah, a lot of doors. Yeah,
a lot of doors. Yes, sir.
We built a lot of doors. Yeah, and I think that's what we helped change policies. We helped change the Canadian space from an economic point of view for the Black community, right? In housing, in tech, in entrepreneurship, and in the type of research that institutions do, and in the type of programs institutions do. Not just doing a program in February that impacts us, but doing a program that impacts the day-to-day of the institution. Just like Sick Kids now has the Sickle Cell Fellowship that we started, and then off of that, they've now launched the Black Experience for patients that use Sick Kids, right? Like that. So that's not now let's do an event in February. That's let's change the way we operate when dealing with the Black community, right? That's our legacy.
Well said.
With that being said, the hustle is what you can control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex.
And I'm Ono Sinde.
And I'm Isaac Olowolafe.
That's the show, y'all. Peace. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. Make sure you visit hustleovereverything.co and cop some fire merch that we have in the store. And then we'll see you in the next episode.